All right, I think we're good. And I hit record. All right, welcome everyone. How's it going? This is a beautiful Tuesday night. Um, Welcome to our third ever staff meeting. And for this one, we have, I think, a good agenda in front of us. What we're looking to talk about tonight, and it's a pretty, I think, difficult topic, but I think we'll have a lot of great opinion on it, is we're looking to talk about, our roadmap, what it looks like, what features we're going to have. We took the feedback from both the Trello board that we have and the dot exercise we did last week to actually kind of develop a list of features we really want. We kind of consolidated those down to epic levels, which are just larger chunks of features. And we basically have some semblance of a roadmap. Now, what we don't really have yet is an exact understanding of where things land at what time they land, right? Because of our open source nature, if someone comes in and decides to implement a feature ahead of time, right? If it makes sense from an infrastructure perspective, there's no reason for us to wait to deploy that feature until later. So it may change slightly. We may have a bit more of a an open-ended type roadmap, but I think we'll start with this. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll iterate as we need to. So we'll present that. We'll talk about that. And then what I really want to dive into is managing expectations from a community and a public perspective. And this is important because I think the worst thing we could probably get ourselves into is people expecting things that we don't have, or people signing up for our services because of a feature that was rumored that we would have, but we don't actually end up developing for quite a while. And so we want to make sure that everyone is clear, is understood with what we have coming up, with what we're working on. And then if people do want more features or new features or different features, a road to get there, right? How do we get those prioritized? How do we get those to be clear, communicated, organized? All right, so let's go ahead and start at the top. First thing to note for anyone who's new here, if you're in this voice chat with me, feel free to voice your opinion over voice, but make sure you're either waiting until there's a very clear pause, or you can PM Paco, and he'll give you an okay or a way into the conversation.
Please don't PM me. I can't handle that. Just put it in the staff chat at me.
Can you send an email to paco@gmail.com? And you'll just get
Perfect. That's not mine.
And then we do have two chats going on. So the first chat is in Discord. That's where I'd expect most people to post. But then also, since we're streaming this, it is on Glimesh, so you can check it out. All right, so let's get started here. So we generally kind of run these meetings by talking about our objective, right? We're all clear on what our objective is. And then what we like to talk about is the weekly metrics. So what happened last week? What are we making progress on? And I think as we grow, as we actually convert into a streaming platform as opposed to a media marketing community platform, what we'll actually translate some of these numbers into is like streamers or viewers or viewer hours or whatever we're looking to track, whatever we're looking to grow. So for now, what we're really looking to grow is engagement with the community, not only the people that we already have as members of our community, but also net new people that have no idea we exist, right? Viewers, streamers, everything under the sun. And so we're pushing really hard right now to really grow our social media presence. The theory being that once we start to launch, what's really going to help us continue to grow the platform is having that voice out there, that voice that where you yell into the ether, but you actually hear something back. And we've seen already great success with that. We've been able to grow our Twitter, we've been able to grow our Discord, and those are more than just numbers, right? Those are people. For every new person we bring into the community, there's a chance of them becoming strong contributors to the platform, or once we launch, being strong drivers for streamers or viewers or tooling or whatever else there may be. So over the last week, we've had a lot of growth. And I think we'll find out why in a minute under the wins section. But just to cover some of the numbers real quick, we really grew last week. We've been kind of growing, I guess, about 100 Twitter followers week over week, but last week we really got a whole bunch. So we got 195 new Twitter users. We have 373 new website users, 101 new Discord users, and then where we're failing, or not failing, where we're not trying as hard, is like Reddit, Instagram, and Facebook. In fact, we talked about this last week as a joke, but we kind of we post on Twitter and Reddit sometimes, and then it's like, oh crap, we have a Facebook, right? We have an Instagram, and I think these are going to be crucial. These are going to be very important platforms for us, but the right now is the ability to manage platforms at the same time. It's really hard to, I guess, be proactive about it and make sure you're targeting all the right areas. So we have a lot of work to do here. If anyone has any experience with tools or solutions for kind of managing these a little bit easier, especially kind of uniformly, please feel free to put it in one of the platform chats. All right, any questions about the metrics? All right, if there are any, just keep.
One short question. How do you differentiate sort of fake or jokey accounts from like actual users who will be engaging once the site launches? Do you do any of that?
No, it's just raw count.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, there's certainly value, and I think once we, like, here's a cool metric. So we launched the profile pages, right? So you can actually have a custom profile in Glimesh. Here's a number I can give you. Since we launched that profile content, we have 174 users who have uploaded or who have modified their profile. So at least that is true engagement, and maybe not spam accounts. We could also look at verified emails. Maybe that'll help us out a little bit too. And then I think we talked about once we go live, we can always do, your bounce rate. All right, we'll keep moving. Okay, so let's talk about some wins. Let's talk about what went really well last week. And I think there were some really, really good ones that I really want to call out here. The first thing that was a huge amount of work for several weeks was the awesome work that MJA did on our internationalization framework. So now we have the ability to translate Glimesh into other languages. And we have the ability to actually, since he investigated the tool, we have the ability to make that easy for our community to help out with those translations. So that's been a lot of work. MJA had to touch every single string, every single word, sentence, anything in the application, put some like code around it, and then create translation files, and then find a tool. And he's done that, and it's been awesome because now we have internationalization, and I didn't have to do anything, right? It's solved. It's solved the problem. So I really want to thank you for that work. And that brings us up to a next point. If you're passionate about the language that you speak natively, or maybe as a hobby language, we're looking for anyone and everyone to help do translations. We have to figure out our setup on the portal first, but as soon as we do, we'll send out some alerts to let everyone know that we're available to translate. All right. So the next thing that was really good last week, and it was maybe the last 2 weeks, but I'll count it. We actually had some really good conversations with both Lightstream and Pretzel about potential partnerships with them. We talked to them on the phone, talked about their platforms, their setups, what they're doing, what they're striving for. Both teams are super awesome. They're super passionate, and they're growing really quickly. I talked to Pretzel most recently, and Pretzel was really, really dedicated to their craft. The thing that they said that really stood by me is that they're extremely dedicated to making sure that musicians, right, different people who actually make the music, get the royalties they deserve. And in the same way, they want to make it easy for streamers to actually be able to support those music makers. And so they seem to have a very good alignment with what our goal is, which is to get content creators what they deserve, right? Instead of just a traditional 50-50 cut, we want to try and drive that down. We want to break down bandwidth costing and platform costing and staff costing. That way we can help give content creators more money. So we're kind of aligned there. The partnerships we're going to be looking at kind of over the next couple of weeks, especially into launch. There's nothing solid right now, but they're really enjoyable conversations, and I think we have a good future with these two companies. We had an awesome AMA on Reddit. I think we got maybe like 30 questions or so. They were all really thoughtful, inquisitive. They came from a whole bunch of people that I'd never heard of before, and then some of our regulars. There were questions that were like deep and thought-provoking, and then there were questions about if we like waffles or pancakes, and the answer is waffles. But it was a really good opportunity to get in front of the community, get in front of different people who maybe never heard of us, and then also to test our skills, right? Make sure that we can have good, solid answers for these questions, and that we're thinking about the right things. So the next one I think was super awesome. So this idea actually came from the community, and I loved the idea so much I couldn't stop working on it. As I was working on payments, I actually really wanted to quit payments and come over and work on this, because the idea was essentially give people a way to customize their profile and start to. Sorry, is there an issue with the stream? Looks good for me. I'm going to keep going. To give people a way to customize their actual stream page and get followers ahead of the launch. That way, when people are growing on the platform, when they are launching for the first time, they'll be able to actually have a following already. So one second, let me make sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Is it the video, audio, both?
I think it's mostly your mic.
Mostly my mic. Oh, God. Let me hit the batteries.
Discord, being Discord.
Is it Discord or the stream? Does anyone?
I know it's Discord. I have the stream muted, so I can only hear you on Discord.
Okay, one sec. I'll be right back.
All right, who wants to sing a song while he's gone?
Happy birthday to Jess. Sorry,
I was just about to start singing happy birthday as well.
Is it somebody's birthday? Whose birthday is it?
All right,
It's
testing?
Jess's birthday. It's always Jess's birthday.
Can y'all hear me on the stream? Am I scratchy? Hello, testing, testing.
It's Christoph's birthday, too.
You can hear me? Okay.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
It is not my birthday.
It's always your birthday. Christoph.
Well,
All right.
Whenever your birthday is, happy birthday.
I think we're good now, right?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay. Sorry about that. I promise I will invest in a microphone that does not run off of batteries or a webcam at some point. But I wanted to really thank the community. I know that there were a lot of you that were pushing for this idea. It was an awesome one, and like I said earlier, 4 of you used this feature, and I clicked on every single one that was tweeted to us. And they were all awesome, and they were all super unique too, right? I mean, no 2 profile pages were the same. There were people who were like using just the functionality we had, right? Very basically. There are people who were like abusing the fact that you can use any Unicode and like embedding custom fonts in the page, which is awesome to see. There are people that helped us find security vulnerabilities in it and help us patch it. So all around, it was really, really a cool feature to have, and it makes me so excited because. Like that's, we just made a profile page customization feature, and you guys went with it and went hard. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be like to be able to actually have streams on the platform and the customizations that come with that. And then once we can get this stuff open to the dev community, what they'll be able to produce also is really, really awesome stuff. And I'm hoping to give you all the opportunity to make sure that on day one, when you can go live on Glimesh, that you've got everything you need, right? You've got your community already following you. They're already here. You've got your page already set up with your rules and your customizations. You've got your payments and payouts already set up. That way, day one for you isn't figuring out how this crap works. It's figuring out how to make it work for you. So,
Hey, Clone, real quick, sorry to interrupt, but before you get too far, Jen is streaming the meeting right now.
You didn't have to say that part.
She's streaming the meeting right now, but she's got the desktop audio muted because she didn't know if it was okay for her to include that. She's just trying to bring people into it. I just wanted to know where you stand on it.
I mean, you guys, everyone here, you listen to your voice being brought amongst the internet, both Glimesh and to whatever other streaming platforms, just by being in here. So if you don't want to be heard, don't talk. You can always chat. There we go. You're good, Jen.
Or was that a yes?
That's a yes.
That's a yes.
Okay.
That was
Yes
a
in
quick
sign language. Got it. Cool. Thanks, bro.
disclaimer. I like that somewhere. You know, hey, you're still being a podcast.
Your microphone is biting it right now, Clone.
Is it really? Oh,
It
God.
is so bad.
It was worse than the last one.
Hello?
Oh my.
Unmuted.
Hey, 1 second. I gotta adjust the batteries.
And now for our staff
Download
meeting
more
from the
mic.com.
secret layer.
Can we like invest in a proper microphone for him? I will gladly
This
buy
is
him
why
a
we
real
need
mic.
to get platform subs live now.
No,
Yeah,
no, we
Nemo
just
Pro.
need donate buttons. Just let us
Yeah.
donate to the mic cause, please.
Look, I have already offered to send him a microphone for free, and he refused.
I literally just gave away an AT2020 because I wasn't using it.
All right, this is a test.
He could literally use like those
Hello?
old Windows XP ones that are like on his face and just stick. And it would be
I'm talking into my microphone so that Christoph can hear me. Hello, hello, hello.
Xbox
Hello, hello.
headphones.
This is a test. Is it good? All right, let's see if we can make it through this, okay? Please interrupt me the second it gets bad, because next time I'll throw it across the room and see if that fixes it. Hiwa, that's funny, because I did buy the cheapest Harbor Freight batteries that were available. So, yeah, not really smart on my end. All right, let's keep moving here. So we wrapped up with profile customizations, and then I wanted to cover a couple of new features that are in the works right now by the community. Yep.
About profile customizations, can I ask you something?
Yep.
Is there anything gonna be done about some of the less ideal parts of this? Because I mean, I tried to use a picture and it just like flew out of the bounds and like was like out there. And I'd really like to use my pictures there and like format them in very like specific way, like when they're like one after another and one under another and all that stuff. Is that gonna be possible anytime soon, or is that like less priority right now?
I would say if there's anything that's preventing you from moving forward, bring it up. But if you can work around it, it's certainly going to be easier for you to work around it than it will be for us to put more effort in that.
I cannot work around it.
Okay. So we got a lot of people in the community who are able to make it work. So let's talk afterwards, Matori, and see if we can make it happen. To your point, though, I think that's what we're talking about today is managing expectations. I think if we're going to launch a streaming site, there's going to be, I guess all the features are not always going to be exactly what is expected, and so we have to be able to manage those. To your point.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions for profile customizations?
Take two had a question.
All right. Where's that?
He was asking, like, with it being open source, is there a fear later on that there's going to be an issue if somebody provides some type of content for us to use with the platform, them coming back later and demanding money or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I mean that's a very common practice in the open source community where people will essentially claim intellectual property rights on the code that they wrote for your open source project. And so there's a legal tool called a contributor license agreement that we can put in place to make sure that that's more clearly defined and that you're actually transferring ownership of the idea to Glimesh or to at least the project, right, depending on how it's written. And the same thing would apply for our emotes, for example. So the community has designed some awesome emotes I'd love to have on the platform, but we want explicit permission from the creators to be able to redistribute that content and to be able to reproduce it and make money off of it or whatever it is. And so we'll actually have to get those transferred if the community's willing, right? And so each idea, each design or code or whatever it is has to kind of fall into that. So that's definitely something we'll have to deal with. Generally, the approach is to try not to make it hairy until you have to, because once it is hairy, it makes it really hard to contribute, right? You have to sign a legal agreement instead of just opening a pull request. So, all right, let's keep moving here. So we have a couple of new features in the works too that are mostly from the community. They're on GitHub right now in a pull request status, and the really cool one that really surprised me out of nowhere was a two-factor auth pull request that came from Wolf. So Wild Wolf has been a part of the community only for a couple of days, and he's already contributed major code to making security enhancements for the platform. Days? I mean, we've all been here for a number of days, right? And I'm super excited to get that through and pushed out. That way we can have that kind of security in place before we even go live. I've been working on the report buttons, trying to get those in place. That way the community can report any misdoings on our new profile pages or any content that's inappropriate. And then we kind of teased out an emoji selector earlier. So being able to have custom emojis, being able to embed emojis directly into your messages instead of having to use your system tooling is going to be a certain win there. All right, any questions on the wins?
I don't have a question per se, but I did want to add to what you were just saying about the report features and things like that. I am hoping that I will have enough done by next Tuesday for the meeting that I'll have some things I can share about the moderation aspects and the community team that we're going to try and do.
Awesome. That's good. That's awesome to hear.
If it's possible, could you look into implementing blob emotes? They are open source as far as I'm aware.
Is that the block, like the little dudes? Is that the Google ones, or is those different?
Yeah, they're open source though, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
That
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we can definitely look at it in suggestions. Okay.
Hayden, you are absolutely correct.
You'll have to read my question or statement. In
Oh, Hayden had a statement more than a question. We are kicking ass.
Is that a win or is that a challenge?
Both.
Are we kicking too much ass? That's the question. So I want to quickly apologize to Wild Wolf. Wild Wolf, I made the fatal mistake of thinking I know how long you've been around and saying that out loud. So it's good to see you around for so many years. Thank you for being a part of the project in 2010. Sorry about that. All right, next, so let's talk about the challenges. So the challenges so far are the same two from last week, and I really want to call them out again because this is the biggest prohibitor for us to do literally anything. especially the first one. So the first one is, whenever we form a company, we have to actually get a tax identifier for the company itself. We applied to the IRS 2 weeks ago for an EIN, which is an identification number. And the IRS is still behind. They're still processing, and we do not have an EIN yet. That means that we cannot accept money in any form or fashion until that is approved. So we have to get that tackled. They say that they're still processing them. They're just kind of backlogged. And since we are using Stripe, Stripe is actually following up with the IRS and calling them to make sure that our account is moving through. The second one here is, I do want to keep calling it out. One of the challenges is that it is very complicated to give people money across the world, right? Taking money is not that hard, but giving money out is very complicated. There's implications from not only a tax perspective, who do you pay, how much do you pay, whose responsibility is it to pay, but then also legal obligations, right? In California, they just ruled that anyone working for Uber is considered an employee. And so if the same implications fall for Glimesh, we have to figure out what those mean, right? And each country has a different set of rules, and even states within countries, right? Like we're saying with California. So there's a lot of ambiguity there, and that's a risk that puts the business at risk. If we don't pay the right government, then that government could ban us, they could sue us, they could do any number of things. And we want to make sure that we're just being compliant with everyone. So we have to research this, and we have to research it with certified professionals who can help us do these things, right? Chad just mentioned a full-time lawyer. Hopefully not full-time for us. That would be very expensive. But your point is exactly right. We need a lawyer to help with some of the legal obligations, and we need tax accountants with some of the tax items. So we are starting with the US only for payouts on launch, and we're targeting more countries immediately after. I would think that the next countries are Canada, UK, because those are so simple. And then we would kind of learn the process there. We'd learn how to onboard new countries, and then we'd be making that more and more available throughout time. Like we keep talking about, these things are all solvable problems, right? Other platforms can do it, but it's going to take a lot to get there, and we don't have a lot of people or time or money. So once we get subscriptions in, then we can start using the platform funds to pay for this stuff. All right, any other challenges to add? I think Take-Two asked, what have you failed to do this past week that has probably set you back, and how are you going about fixing that? I would say I continually fail at communicating effectively to all of the different parties that we communicate to. So both Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, Discord. I find that keeping one consolidated piece or source of information is very complicated. That's why I put some work into the roadmap this week. That's why Christoph helped with creating an initial prototype of that. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do now is get ahead of that pain, if you will, of communication.
Take-Two also asked, when will you file for a trademark?
I'm not sure. We'll definitely file for a trademark at some point, but we got a lot of things to get for. We have a lot of things to work towards first. Right now, we're already protected because we already have claimed our name, so we can at least defend against it. But if we want to start actively suing people for using it, then we'd have to get that done. But I don't think that's a super concern for us right now. I think once we do get a lawyer that has dedicated time for us, we'll kind of set them on a to-do list.
Can I cut in real quick?
Sure.
Sure. So in regard to the whole trademark, you're not in fear of somebody potentially, like, let's say a big company such as Twitch or YouTube. What? My cat's meow, my bad. But you're not worried about these big name companies because, I mean, if you look up Twitch, for example, you can see the extent of what they cover to prevent people from gaining any access or using any trademark of their own that they decide. So that's part of the reason why I ask if they were to take that from you at that point in time, they can go ahead and force you not to use. Technically, you have no legal say. You do, but you don't have any legal say in regards to we had it first type situations when it comes to the name Glimesh, because a trademark is a trademark, and they're gonna look at that. They're not gonna look at how long have you had Glimesh, and have you had it for 2 years. They're gonna look at who has the trademark. And part of the reason why I asked the question is it's only like I think it's $350 to establish a trademark for a potential company like yourself. Um, I'm just curious of why you haven't done that yet. That's all. Especially with the fact that, um, from what I've heard from people, there's people that have tattoos of Glimesh, so that would be very scary in a sense if you were to all of a sudden say, "Hey, by the way, we're not going to be Glimesh because somebody took the trademark from us, so we can't do anything about it."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
So it's definitely still, it's just not quite a priority yet. The laws in the U.S. are slightly different from that. And we do have, of course, prior art. We've got the registered company name. We've got emails. We've got all the documents we need. So I'm not too concerned that anyone's going to come after us for the name Glimesh or the logo right now. I'm more concerned, honestly, about any kind of patent troll that would exist that would be trying to claim live streaming video as their own. So I'm just not too sure about that. If we were called a name that's more similar to Twitch or YouTube or anything like that, I think that'd be definitely, to your point, way more of a concern.
Well, it's the fact that anybody can right now go out and simply file for a trademark underneath the claim Glimesh or underneath the name Glimesh. And as soon as they get the approval for that trademark, they now own the name Glimesh. And if they go as far as to do the
Yeah,
GM,
that's so. I'm gonna interrupt. That's not the way it works. So there's definitely So you have a registered mark, and then you actually have the trademark itself, and they're two different things. But we're gonna keep moving for now. We can definitely continue this conversation in chat.
Gotcha.
Bluish was asking, will there be multiple avenues for revenue, such as ads, microtransactions similar to bits, as well as subs, or just subs to start?
Subs to start. That's what we'll kind of disclose here in a minute, is what the launch looks like, because to your point, ads, right? Ads are a great source of revenue. Sponsorships, any kind of like merch is a good way to get revenue in, but subscriptions is definitely the most viable one for us right now, especially with the resources we have. All right, so with that in mind, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the roadmap? Let me make sure I polish it up real quick. Let's see here. Okay. So let me do a quick warning to everyone. I'm about to present what we've kind of solidified as different phases that we could have towards our launch. There are items in here that will change. There are items in here that are not explicitly listed. The dates are all gut at best, and they could change. What will help to inform these dates, if there are any, would be actually starting to hit the first phases. So I pre-warn everyone, because when you show things like this, it can be really easy to take it and run. So I want to remind everyone that this is the current roadmap, this is the current feature buckets, but this is not exactly how it will work out. Like I said before, if people implement things ahead of time, if we can't get to something for a long time, if it ends up taking too much resource or too much money, it's going to offset it. So this is very much, here, let me add a quick annotation to this to make it very clear. Preliminary. Let me Google preliminary, make sure I spelled it correctly. Cool. Yeah, I'm building up the hype. Woo, sorry. Live changes. And then I'm going to do one more red thing real quick. Just a big roadmap subject to change. If I've learned one thing over my years, it's if you tell anyone anything, they will hold you to it, which I'm still expecting to happen, but whatever.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that, Clone.
All right, here we go. A little drum roll, please. Presenter view. All right. So, just to clarify, what we're looking at here is a potential. Oh, I just covered it up. It's on stream, by the way. I'm sorry for anyone who's watching on Discord. What we're looking at here is what I'm currently calling a Glimesh alpha. And I call it that in particular because one of the discussion points for today is what exactly is launch, what is go live, what is the moment that people are going to think we're real, and then how do we manage the expectations for things that people want that we don't exactly have. And so I call it the alpha roadmap because for me, these are all the features that we need to support to really consider being a competitive platform that can exist and grow its own true market share. But I think one of the things we can do here is actually give the community different update phases that drive us towards that. So I don't feel comfortable holding the platform back until we get all of these, for example. But I also want to make sure that we can communicate that very clearly over time that, hey, we're planning on launching with only the maximum viable launch, but that won't contain every feature that you're used to. That won't contain everything that you've been asking for. And I've kind of prioritized these based on usability, based on our DOT voting session last week. And then also for some of them like clips, I would love clips. Clips is going to be awesome. But there's a certain level of scale we have to hit before we can host stored video content. We have to be able to support the servers for that. We have to be able to support the redistribution. And then clips is where we fall into some serious DMCA issues. So we have to be very careful with that. So it's going to take a lot more work. And so it's a little bit further in the roadmap. But essentially what we're looking at here is 3 big launches in order to get us to an alpha phase, with each of them being their own viable streaming site, if that makes sense. So at maximum viable launch, the stream will be live. You'll be able to stream on it. You'll be able to interact with it. It'll be something that we're marketing, something that we're pushing, something that we're supporting wholeheartedly and fully. In the meantime, we'll be working on the next batch of major features that'll come out, which I'm calling the forgotten features, which are features that we definitely should have, right, as a competitive streaming platform, but also things that were not necessarily important for an initial launch. And I think one of the questions is going to be, why not just wait until you have those features? And it's really because I believe that time is not on our side right now. I believe that there's a lot of, if you think about our competition is not Twitch. Twitch will not be our competition for quite a long time. They take up a 90% market share of like live streaming content. But what is our competition right now is all of the other platforms that are spinning up and going live. And I love that competition that we have because it's so engaging, it's so powerful, right? Being able to bounce ideas off other platforms, being able to accelerate past and then fall behind other platforms is a great motivator. But I think that one of the issues you have when you introduce multiple platforms to a group of people is you have dilution. As there are more, it becomes more of a choice. And because it's more of a choice, all of them have a less likely chance to succeed because people are not as focused as they could be. They're not building the viewership of the community that they need to be building for a streaming site to make that critical mass that it needs to succeed. So I think the time is not on our side. I think we have to launch quickly. I think we have to launch with the features that people find acceptable, and then I think we have to iterate. I think we have to keep working at this and keep making it better and better and getting more and more features kind of in tune. So with that, are there any gut comments from the group?
One thing I wanted to say is, like we spoke a little bit about this very briefly earlier today, and I think it's a good idea for people to recognize that perfection is not a thing that is likely to ever be achieved, let alone at launch. And if we're waiting for perfection, we're all gonna die in this Discord server. Like, I think the best thing we can do is just get it as prepared as we can, make it where we feel like it's at a good place to launch, and then just, strive for that constant feedback, communication, and iteration as we improve and add features as we go.
Right, and that's what I love, is because once we're live, then iteration is all about like reality. We're improving the actual existing site that people are using, and we get to learn from our community, not necessarily from what worked with other platforms.
I got a question real quick.
Sure.
What matters more to you? Do you care more about the community, or would you care more about the money aspect? And I know it's like an easy question to answer, but if somebody was to actually come up to you and go, "Here's $20 million. All we ask is you follow these small little guidelines and you listen to these," or would you rather work off of what the community can do for you, potentially help provide money as well as yourself providing towards this hobby or side gig?
Yeah, so here's the interesting part about me, the person. I've worked for a startup for 2 years now, and we grew from 5 people to 58 people now. Our valuation has quadrupled in the time that I've been here, and we've raised multiple millions of tens of dollars over the time. And I think that startups are fun and interesting because you essentially get a check deposited in your account, and you get to grow and build as much as you can with all the people that you can possibly hire. But to your point, money never comes without a couple of stipulations, right? And I think the scariest thing for me, and the thing that is hard about startups for me, is that other people get to dictate what your priorities are very early on. So instead of building the right platform, and instead of building the platform that you think will succeed based on the community's input, you build the platform that they want you to build to set it up for their success. And for an investor of a startup, the success is always a hockey stick curve of numbers of users, or whatever the success metric is. And then it's always a 300 times return on investment. So if the platform doesn't grow 300 times year over year, that's failure. And for me, what I would love in my life right now is to be able to grow something natively, to be able to create a sustainable platform and community, to create something that allows us to answer the questions like, hey, what does an open company look like? Hey, what does paying people what they're actually providing the work for look like? And how can we best build something that we're all proud of, right? Because I think that's what it really comes down to. So your question's really hard. I think that the immediate answer, the immediate answer is no, I would not accept money. But the thing that you guys all have to bounce back on is of course, he's just saying that. What happens when it's actually $20 million in front of your face? And so that's where I fall back on open source. So,
because I mean, we can go back to history. We could look at Mixer and how Mixer started and what happened at Mixer.
Yep.
That's obviously the easiest thing to do, and to use as an example. But it is a hard question to answer, and that's part of the reason why I threw it at you. Because I know it's a hard question to answer, and there was one other thing I wanted to add on to that, if I can remember it. Are you by any chance do you already have a whole account and all that type of stuff set up on Angel Investment, or I think it's Angel Investors or Angel Investment?
No. Right now we're not really actively looking for any kind of investment.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and so you go back to your other question, right? Am I looking for money? And I mean, I've said this numerous times. I'm not rich by any means, and I really don't have that much money, but I have enough to provide for myself and the platform for quite a while, so we can bootstrap. And that's really what I'm interested in right now, is bootstrapping.
Yeah, because the reason I ask about that and everything, and and all that is because it is, we obviously understand the difference between making a website and making a streaming platform. As far as expense wise, it is complete opposite.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So does anyone else have any comments on the roadmap? I think I have one in chat here. Let me read it out real quick. I don't know where it went. I think it was over here.
Bottom Bluish had a question.
Bluish. Okay, so Bluish asked, will microtransactions be added to the forgotten features at a future date? As a streamer, the bits support the site and streamer, but are a significant source of income plus interaction between the streamer and viewer. So you're absolutely right. Interactivity, microtransactions, those things are super fun, and they can provide a real revenue source. I think for me, that gets more and more out of my current knowledge comfort zone. Meaning there's a reason they do microtransactions as a way of facilitating money transfer, as opposed to just being dollars, right? There's a reason it's bits and not dollars or cents or whatever it is. And there's a lot of legalities there that I'm uncomfortable with right now. And so I don't know as much about microtransactions to support them until we start to gain traction, until we start to be able to afford those lawyers or those financial accountants that can help us kind of drive that feature. So I'm not sure that's exactly in the scope of alpha right now, but I think that could always change. But right now it's kind of far away. And loot boxes, right? That's another. Those kind of things are great because they build that engagement, but it's also it's very, there's a lot of legalities that go into it, and it's not a super comfortable zone right now. Subscription payments is the easiest, most proven thing in the world, right? Everyone can go set up a Shopify or a SaaS application and get subscription payments. Are there any features here that are huge and missing and that you would be super upset about not having?
I mean, I brought up last time the co-streaming aspect, like mainly for me, the chat merging, at least the ability to opt to merge chats together, because it helps a lot when playing with another streamer.
Yep, we get that right here, group streaming.
Awesome. Sorry, did not see that. Thank you.
That's all right. We didn't call it co-streaming, so it's a little deceiving. All right. Anything else?
I'll touch on something real quick. I don't know if you've already covered this or anything, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. As far as like clip integration and everything, you said that that's something you would like to do or you already have done. But in regards to that, is there going to be anything that's specialized as far as like algorithms or anything like that for clip discovery?
Right, that's a good question. So Matori asked it, I think last week or so, about discoverability. And hey, you guys are preaching that you're a discoverable platform, but none of these features are specifically catered to discovery. And so the answer there for sure is that we're trying to make things as equal and fair from the very beginning as possible. So hopefully we don't have to answer super hard questions about discoverability until we can at least start building these features out. I think on launch, if there's 150 streamers on the platform, you're not really going to be competing for a lot of space or a lot of discoverability. And we're going to be very reliant on your own community to be bringing those people in. But I think to your point, Take Two, when we do start to get the clips, what we're going to really make sure we do is we're going to make sure that those clips are shareable, are labelable, are titleable. It like links you directly back to the stream that it came from. We want to make sure that they're embeddable on other websites, right? On Twitter, on Reddit, whatever the sites are. And then we want to make sure it always takes you back to that streamer's page on Glimesh. That way you're building out that discoverability outside of your network. And then inside the network, I don't know right now, we haven't really talked about it at all. We don't know what the idea is behind how we show clips on the website. We don't know if there's a gallery of clips. We don't know if there's some discoverability matrix there. That's kind of, I think, one of the areas we get to explore with that feature.
Yeah, because I mean, in my mind, in this me being a little blunt and everything, there's millions of people that make content. Because at the end of the day, this is what we like. This is what we do as streamers. We make content and we do it live. And you can easily go to YouTube and type something in and then like change the category to new by like the past hour, and you'll see a ton of videos that will never see what is the term, see light or whatever. They'll never be seen because they're just not good, and
Yeah.
that's just being like blunt on it. They're not good, and that's the one thing that I'm curious, because I mean that'll separate you from every single platform, even Twitch and everything, if you can master some sort of way to incorporate, clip discovery, but
Yeah.
not making it so that way, like every time a new clip comes up, somebody's being viewed, and
Right, and I think I think if anyone can solve that problem, right, discoverability at scale, like that's a $1 billion idea. I think even like TikTok, right? Think about TikTok. TikTok is extremely viral and discoverable. I don't think I've ever watched the same TikToker on Reddit, for example, in a row. I think it's always been someone new and different. But to your point, even though I'm constantly seeing new people pop up and new content, imagine all the people I'm not seeing. Imagine all the people that are making hundreds of TikTok videos and it's never being seen because there's just so many people making them and not enough people consuming them.
exactly. It's one thing to have a viewer, it's another thing to have a follower.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I don't know that we have a secret weapon there. I think we've got a lot of experiments to do. We've got a lot of iterations to try. We have a lot of ways to make it fair and accessible, but it's the magic wand is not quite built yet.
Ryfrost said from earlier, is there a plan to make the clickable profiles and links within the platform that we include open in another tab instead of the same?
Yeah. So backstory. I Googled for like 45 minutes on the best practice, and apparently I read the wrong. Yep. Huh? My mic is cutting out. Hello. I'm gonna yell from now on. Can everyone hear me? Is it crackling?
Scream the answers.
Is it good now? It's fine now.
For now.
Okay. Crackling pretty bad. Great. Fuck. Jesus. Okay. All right. So we only have a couple more minutes here. We didn't quite get to the actual objective of the meeting, but I think that's okay. I want to spend the next couple of minutes talking about this idea of expectations. Clone's batteries and mic are the worst. Okay, cool. So.
Thank you, Christoph.
So.
Very accurate meeting minutes.
So I think one of the things that we'll find out is that it's incredibly hard to please everyone, and that's just going to happen no matter what. I think we have to all admit right now, people are going to hate us. People are going to hate me. People are going to hate you. People are going to hate anyone who's involved with everything. But that's okay, because, Matori, you're not muted, by the way, because we want to figure out how to communicate more effectively. And I think the roadmap is a great first step, because what we'll do is, Matori says, I'm so sorry. It's okay, we forgive you. But what we want to figure out is there are features that are not listed on this alpha roadmap. And there are features that are not on this alpha roadmap that people are going to be expecting, or that people have already been, people already think probably exist or are going to exist. So when that happens, how do we manage that? How do we get ahead of that? How do we communicate this information more clearly and effectively? And the reason I'm asking you all is I think there's a very good parallel here between what like alpha video games look like, or video games that were delivered that don't have the features you expect, or other platforms and services you use that just don't quite match your expectations. And I was curious if anyone has any experience around some game who produced exactly what they expected. How did you know what they were planning? How did they communicate with you? Was it slides? Was it like a blog post? Was it patch notes? How did they communicate effectively with you? Anyone?
Are you like referring to like? Did you say games as like one example?
Yeah. That's where we can start. I think that's probably the most accessible way. Are there games that so Omnom has already started. He's saying basically with a lot of the indie games that he follows, or that they follow, sorry, having blog posts is good, as well as dev streams. So it keeps the community kind of informed.
Twitter also. I know Eric Barone, the guy that did Stardew Valley, is big on updating via Twitter.
Okay, so strong social presence.
Well, yeah, that's given that you have to be on social presence and everything like that. But the biggest thing that I learned, especially whenever I did some designs and videos for whenever I was over at Brime and stuff, was what really drew people in and what will always draw people in are, and it sounds stupid, but it's always pictures and videos. If you can provide pictures and videos, you're always going to gain people's attention because it's easy to look over and it's easy to watch a 3-second clip rather than have to read 5 seconds worth of text.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the biggest things. And as the reason I was asking about games and stuff is, I think a good thing to hit on is if we, I don't know if it's just me, but if we go back, let's say we're in 2020, so let's say we go back 15 years, the games that were coming out, we were dying to play because they were revolutionary, they were game changing, they were something that has never been done before. And then as we progress now, you know, the last good Halo, I think, was Halo 3. And then everything after that, I just felt was like a copy to make something slightly better. But it was never anything unique. And I feel that then that's part of the reason why I kept asking you about the whole gaming thing is because it could be compared to streaming that, you know, everybody wants to make a streaming platform. Everybody wants to do it. I mean, I can name off, you know, the top of my head about 3 or 4 streaming platforms that are on a race, including you all, to make something such as a streaming platform. But who's actually going to get to the end of this race, whether it's late, whether it's second, third, fourth, or fifth, or first, and have something to show that's revolutionary and unique, you know?
Yeah, and so I guess the question is, what if it's not revolutionary, right? What if it's not a big what if it doesn't have different features, right? What if it's the same thing? I guess that's the fear, right? Look at the alpha roadmap. Is there any feature here that is absolutely revolutionary in the streaming world?
The alpha roadmap. Sorry.
That's right. It's literally just all the features that other platforms have. And so, what if people are expecting revolutionary and that's not what you're delivering? How do you communicate that? So I think that we have a semblance of an answer there, right? It's communicating what we're launching. It's communicating the expectations. But then I really like the community's answer so far about just making sure that you're producing the right content. Make sure it's video or audio or photos, I guess, for the audience you're targeting, and then make sure that they're catered. I think that's an important topic also, is making sure it's the right information for the right people. You know, if you're targeting streamers, it's information the streamers might care about. If it's viewers, then it might be what type of content you'll have on the platform. And then I think we are going to get a lot of traction from what Omnom is saying, which is that it's more approachable than Twitch because it's a lot smaller. And so we'll be able to kind of grapple that for a long time, But
I mean, every company starts off small. You know, we look at DLive and look at what DLive did and look at where they're at now, you know. And the other good thing to point out, because you talked about having different languages and stuff incorporated into the platform, are you, when it comes to advertising, are you going to be looking more so for views, or are you going to be looking for clicks? And that's like a marketing term. I don't know if you know much like in regards to that. But are you going to be looking for somebody that's just going to stop by and drop down a view to watch a 2-second video, or are you looking more so towards marketing towards people that are going to click on the website and actually stay? And I feel like it's an easy answer to the question, but the issue that comes about with that is the cost. It's more expensive to market to somebody within, let's say, the United States than it would be over in Turkey.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an interesting point. I think we have to define what our goals are as far as the marketing strategy, and I think that's exactly your point. Is that there's going to be times where we want to just rack up views. We want to get people. We want to get the brand out there. We want for Glimesh to not be something that people are unfamiliar with. That way, our future marketing campaigns are more effective. But there's also times where we're going to want to make sure that we're pushing for engagement. We're pushing for people who come back the next day and still use the site. And I think there's two different campaigns for that, or two different types of campaigns that you can do. And I think that helps us once we're already launched. There's a very easy methodology we could use where we just funnel 100% of net profit directly back into ads for the site. And if we decide that we really want to increase our Turkish population, then we can go for that. But I think what we'll have to balance is it the right, like if we go to a net new market, like Turkey, who has 0 users that I'm aware of on Glimesh, we're going to have the burden of recruiting streamers and viewers for that market. And if we don't already have a way for you to receive money, then it's going to be even harder. So what we'll probably do is target the markets we're comfortable with first, right? US is obviously the easiest since we're already here, we're already doing it. And then as we grow, we can continue to grow those markets. And I think we'll follow where our users are. So, if we have a good 60% of our users in some country, we'd want to support that country to continue growing out that presence there.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. Yeah, because the thing is, like, the reason I brought up DLive is because I don't know if anybody was there from the start or close to the start, but you understood that it was going to be something revolutionary and different, especially the fact that they incorporated cryptocurrency, which was different. It was unique. It was awesome. But they started to go down the wrong road when they went out to get what was it, PewDiePie, to come over and stream for a day, and then they used his profile, posted on the front page, and continued to replay that every single day, and it always had like 20,000 people watching it. But the thing that really irritated the community is the owners and the admins and all that, the people making the platform, cared more about showing PewDiePie being a part of their page than actually showing the people that are working hard to make really good content on their platform, solely for their platform.
Yeah.
Not just doing it for a day.
Right. And Take Two, I want to keep us on topic as much as possible.
Okay.
And I only say that because we're kind of already past time a little bit.
Okay, my bad.
That's all right. Definitely a good conversation to have, and I'd love to actually dive in. But so one of the things that we have to figure out, so I think we've got a couple of different options here. We've got, we have to communicate very clearly. We have to make sure that we're communicating in a format that's relevant to our audience. We have to communicate, I guess, depending on if it's a streamer, if it's a viewer. Are there any other ways we could help manage expectations? I think one of the issues I'm struggling with is we talked about this roadmap, right? And these are epic level items. Is there confusion around what smaller items are? Like, if we talk about email notifications, right here, it's here at the bottom. This only mentions new followers, streamers going live. But what if you also want to get notified that your account is being hacked, right? We're not specifically calling that out as a feature, but it kind of makes sense as one of the features to have. Do you think we're going to have ambiguity with our audience there, or do you think they'll be able to kind of fill in the gaps? Do you have any experience with a time you thought a feature was very clearly there, and then you went into it and it wasn't? All right, Vittori's not sure what I'm talking about. That's all right.
Yeah, me either.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm getting hot at this point, so I'm kind of rambling. All right, I think we...
there was a question. Let me go up and find it. Crow said, is there going to be a way for the streaming page itself to have redirects to the streamer's social medias or Patreon or whatever? I'm not sure how an absolutely new, fresh viewer to Glimesh will figure out or go out of their way to click a streamer's profile page to get this information. So I guess like on the actual page itself with the stream embed, not the profile.
That'd be interesting, actually. Like, because you know how you can browse for people's streams and like see what's got the most viewers. Like, what if there's an integration so that way they don't actually have to click the stream? They could just click their social media. That would be on that preview. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of so Twitter embeds have a couple of different options for showing not only who the creator of the content was, but also where they found the content, and then linking you to the content as well. So we may be able to experiment with that to see if we can kind of increase the streamer's audience, right? Because that's one topic we keep talking about is if a streamer is successful on Glimesh, we're successful. That translates directly. And so even if we drive a user to their Twitter to follow, it's still people who will come back to the website later to watch the stream.
Crow and Take Two, will you please put your respective suggestions in the suggestions channel, and I'll pin them up there.
And then, so Hayden mentioned, I guess, go the agile route and actually spec and cost each item. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm actually talking about is how to prioritize the features that we aren't talking about, the features that people expect, that we expect to exist, but that we haven't even called out yet. And I think that's something we'll find out, right? We don't have to figure that out today. I wanted to kind of see if anyone had any impressions. I think we learned a couple of things we can do. We'll continue to keep everyone up to date as much as possible, but make sure you do tune in to our various sources because that's kind of the only way we'll be able to publish this information. Okay, so with that, let's check in on our staff meeting here. So we talked about major features that are not on our beta roadmap that may leave us out in the water. We talked about the communication patterns we can use to talk to potential customers about what we have, what's next, and how to help kind of communicate that over and over again. And then we talked about the product roadmap. Is there anything else anyone wanted to talk about here?
I've got nothing.
All right.
I think you said, did we already talk about that? The monetary value to features.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Haiwa, sorry, don't know how to say it yet. Would there be value in creating a monetary value to features, so giving you another metric to compare against? I think that makes sense at a certain point. I don't know exactly how we do that now, though. Because I guess one way we're already doing that is, which is cool, is if you go to our Trello board has all features that have been suggested, and it's managed by our awesome community, and they actually have upvotes. So you can add your own little forward or upward thinking arrow that tells you that you want this feature, that you want it to happen. So I think that's a way to essentially value our features, right? If we're ignoring a feature that's at the very top of the list and there's no clear reason why, I think that's a really good point. All right, that's good to know. That's good to think about, actually, is to call that out. Is if there's a feature that's on the top of this list that we're not talking about, that's probably going to be the thing that bites us. Okay. All right, so what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and end the recording. We'll kind of wrap this meeting up, and then I'll stick around. We can talk about questions. We can talk about answers. We can talk about whatever. If you're in our stream chat, but you're not on Discord and you want to be part of the questions answered, please join the Discord or tweet us. We'll always respond to tweets. But other than that, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for attending our third ever staff meeting. This has been, they won't always be as interactive as last week, and they won't always be as engaging as this one. These over time, iterating on this process as well. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to end this recording now. Have a good night.